Elif, over to you.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I hope everyone can hear me well. Please let me know if there's any problem with the sound during the presentation. I would like to thank Erika for this invitation. It's a pleasure and a great joy to study Hilma af Klint's work with this opportunity. And I'm very happy to meet you this evening. Thanks a lot for your time. And I will try to give you some brief information about Hilma af Klint, which, I mean, she's now, I think, very well known almost all over the world. But her life, I think, still partially a mystery. And we will just explore a part of it. And then if you have any questions, we can have questions and answers, and I will try to provide information as much as I know. So for the cover page, I wanted to put this small, beautiful botanical drawing, which I think it's a very beautiful work of her. And this was the first work I knew Hilma af Klint. So for me, it's also a very particular work. We will start with some biographical information. I mean, she was born in the second half of the 19th century, and as we all know, it was a period of an extreme change. So towards the end of the 19th century, industrial revolution, everything changing very rapidly in the Western world, so technological developments in science, you know, everything about atoms, X-ray, and also, let's say, the uncanny climates just before the world wars. And all the civil movements towards women rights, social discussions. It was the time that she was born. And her family was in majority naval officers. So she was coming from this tradition that the family had a close connection with science. Her father was a captain, and he was teaching also at the military academy in Sweden. And the biographers assume that actually her artistic practice in future years, or her interest in science, nature, and art, were highly influenced by her father's connection with all these different fields through his profession. Then in a very early age 17, she participates her first seances through a photographer, medium Berta Valerius. And this was the year also she started to study in the technical school in Stockholm, and she met Ann Cassel, who was a very important collaborator, friend, sort of lifelong partner of Hilma af Klint. They studied together. When she was 18, she lost her sister, a young sister. They were 5 siblings, and Hilma af Klint was the 4th, and Hermina was the little sister. And when she lost Hermina, also the biographers think that like the loss of her little sister created increased her interest in spirituality and spiritual matters. In 1882, she started to study at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Stockholm. During that time, not all of the art schools were accepting females. And actually also for the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Sweden, it was very new. So Hilma af Klint was only the 2nd generation of the female art students. And as you can see in this image, they were not allowed to study together with men. So females had a different study program, and men had a different study program. She was an excellent student. She got many awards during her studies as a student, also monetary awards, and her traditional paintings, like the landscape paintings, were very well received. Um, and she had an opportunity to show her landscape works, her portrait works in many exhibitions around Sweden and Stockholm during those times. Also, as a traditional artist, she illustrated different books, also in collaboration with Anne Cassel, and she did many botanical drawings, as you saw a glimpse in the beginning. In 1896, if we come back to the biography, I mean, one of the things which is important for us, that she becomes a member of a spiritual circle in Stockholm, Edelweiss Society. And this organization was combining Christian ideas, theosophical teachings, and spiritualism. So for her, this was like an important moment. Then after 2 years, she lost her father, and she moved with her mother to, they started to live together. I mean, her mother has an important position in her life. We see that through her painting adventure too. There are moments that she pauses, that she takes care of her mother more closely. Sometimes they move to different locations, especially when her mother becomes blind. So her symbiotic relationship with her mother, as, let's say, the female, unmarried female of the family who is taking care of the mother, is an important point in her life throughout her career as well. I forgot to add something about this academical studies. It was common for females who were unmarried, coming from wealthier families, to study art during that time, because the family, if the daughter was unmarried, the men, they had to take care of them financially. And the art school was a way to deliver that taking care of yourself situation to the female herself. So they were sponsoring their education. Also, in the case of Hilma of Klint, the family sponsored her education, but after she received this well training through her traditional artistic practice, she was able to sustain herself as an artist, as a female artist in the end of the 19th century. I think it's a very important point also. So if we come back to her biographical information, here you see a beautiful self-portrait of herself. She had these moments of watercolors. I mean, we will also see it in the late 1920s, that she has this extensive series of watercolors, especially exploring flowers and natural world. But here also you can see a beautiful example of her self-portrait in watercolor. For us, which is significant, like a significant information, 1903, she becomes a member of the Theosophical Society. And this is also the year that she starts to travel abroad. So with her companion and Anne Cassel, that they are drawing together, they study together, so they also travel together. They go to Germany, they go to Italy, and we have this information through her sketchbooks and her notes. Here I wanted to include some classical paintings of her, so you can have a glimpse of her talent, let's say. So this is The End of the Summer, 1903, oil on canvas. This is another landscape work with swans and flowers, always from early 1900s. And here we see Hilma af Klint in her studio around same time, like 1902. Here we can see a glimpse of her botanical studies, that she had many of them, and she continued to have botanical studies throughout the time. So there are many different versions. They were shown very beautifully in Tate exhibition a few years ago when they organized this exhibition, bringing together the works of Hilma af Klint and Mondrian. They had a stress on their paintings and drawings about flowers and paintings because also Mondrian has that flower period, and it was a very beautiful combination of works. If we continue with the biographical thing, here you see her, as a painter, holding her palette, her brushes, and, she's posing beautifully in a studio space. So, another critical moment in Hilma af Klint's life is 1896, when she actually establishes this group called the Five, the Femme. For them, this group is actually, representing a new era. So all the traditional artistic practice is actually diminishing slowly, and a new language, a new artistic language is about to born. The Five is consist of five women who studied together at the Royal Academy of Art. So one of them is Anne Cassel, the other one is Hilma af Klint. Cornelia Kederberg is also someone that Hilma af Klint closely collaborated. Sigrid Hedman and Matilda Nielsen. So these are the group members who almost for 10 years worked together. They were coming together once a week and they were organizing seances. And during the seances, they were connecting with higher spirits. They call them the higher masters. And with the higher masters, which they also named, in the next slide, you will see the drawing that Hilma af Klint did on her notebook depicting them, Amaliel, Ananda, and Gregor. They were connecting and channeling their messages. So it was like through the seances, they were filling notebooks with notes, with sketches, with drawings. And this it's a period of automatic drawings. So while having that seances, they were depicting the messages in a visual format through their artistic gift. And this was the beginning of, let's say, a very important turning point for Hilma af Klint, because she received an important message from the masters in 1906. So during a seance, one of the higher masters, Ameliel, she asked Hilma af Klint to accept a very important commission, an extensive work that will be actually more than automatic drawings. And she accepted it immediately. And that was the beginning of her monumental series of work, which she titled The Paintings for the Temple. And overall, it was like 190 works together. And she produced them in collaboration with her other female friends between 1906 and 1915. One parenthesis that we have to make is about Rudolf Steiner. Hilma af Klint admired Rudolf Steiner through her life, and she wanted to build a relationship with him as if he became her tutor. But he didn't accept this suggestion, saying that she already actually found her master in the spirit world. But Hilma af Klint was looking for his support, his approval through her artworks, and also his facilitation to show some of her works to different audiences. We will come back to Steiner time to time, but January 1910, was probably the first time that Hilma af Klint had an opportunity to show a part of the paintings for the temple to Rudolf Steiner when actually he was lecturing in Stockholm during that time. So he was there, so she brought him to her studio and shared her work for the first time with the Steiner. Af Klint, a very strong female figure. She was also a part of the Swedish Women Artists Association, and she also worked as their secretary. I mean, I think the way that they gave the stress to the, let's say, female collaboration and cooperation was very important, and we see this throughout her life. Even when the five dissolves, she keeps collaborating with Ankasal, and then they build another collaborative group with, I think, 13 female artists. So it's always together, it's always collectively. So this page from her notebooks is showing actually some notes and the names of the higher spirits that they were connecting through the seances. Maybe you can see they're like, star shape or more like a line. There's the Ameliel, Ananda, Gregory. And in one of the interviews, the family was saying that like she was incredible about collecting and recording all the information. When she died, she left like 25,000 pages, all numbered, dated, very well organized, and explaining a vocabulary of all the work that she did. And they are still, as far as I know, trying to transcribe all the material that she left. I mean, a part of her diaries were being prepared to print it as a book, but still there are many extensive material that needs attention. So this was the place where the five was gathering for their seances. This was their room. You can see, the Christ image and the feathers, flowers. And this was the altar that they were actually practicing their works. Here we have, sorry, just here we have two quotations from Hilma af Klint explaining the beginning of this process, like how actually Ameliel offered her this commission and she accepted immediately, and then how these paintings were coming to life. So there are different phases. When she first starts, she says that like this is a message that's coming, and she's painting immediately without making any interpretation. So she says, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I just, channel my hand. I receive some message and I just put it in a form, color, and, that is the direct expression of the higher spirits. But after 1912, there will be a change. So she will continue to paint the messages, but she will include her own interpretation. So it will not be anymore a direct translation of what she receives in a visual format, but it will also include her artistic interpretation after 1912. And then after 1920, she will stop making paintings related with her mediumistic work. And then she will turn more to Christian iconography. I think this is such a beautiful quote. I mean, what I needed was courage, and it was given to me through the spiritual world. And I find it very relevant and also really beautiful. I mean, it was like a rare and wonderful instruction. So this is a beautiful way of explaining actually how she was looking for some support, but she couldn't find it in the physical life that she was living. there were many discussions when Hilma af Klint's work found for the, it was not found, but it was shown for the first time. So some people were saying, she wanted to show her traditional work, but she wanted to keep her abstract works, her spiritual works, out of the gaze. So she preferred to keep them away from the audience for the future. But in later years, when the researchers were going through her diaries, her notes, they found out that actually she really wanted to show these works and she wanted to connect with people. She hoped that actually people would have an understanding of the messages that she was depicting. But unfortunately, she had different attempts to build that communication, but especially after 1928, after the last exhibition that she participated, she accepted that, okay, maybe this is really not the time. Maybe this is not the crowd. And during that period, she never stopped working. She never stopped working. She left almost 1,000 works, including paintings and drawings. So, as this quotation beautifully describes, the spiritual world gave her the courage to move. And now with this image, actually, we are starting to see the big commission, the paintings for the temple. So this is the first series, Primordial Chaos. I mean, she always worked in series and groups. So for her, I mean, we can say that this big commission, which includes 193 paintings and drawings, in these different series and groups, it was exploring different aspects of cosmic and human evolution. And she had these different thematics in different series and groups that we will see gradually in the upcoming slides. But for her, I mean, all these symbols, colors, their compositions, they were all representing a whole, a unity. And in her mind, all these works actually will belong to a single temple. So that the paintings for the temple, but I mean, the temple could be also the body, because she was seeing the body as a temple of the soul. So of course, in the later years, she started to design a building as a temple for the paintings, but that throughout that process, first she positioned the body of herself, a person, as the temple of the soul. So from here, I will show you this beautiful series, which is called The 10 Largest. This is a very monumental artwork. So in the 10 largest, we see the 4 phases of human life, like the stages of human life. So we have the childhood, as you can see on the left, with the blue and floral patterns. We have youth, we have adulthood, and then the old age. There are many botanical references in these works, and again, like, snails, V-shapes, spirals, the colors combining that we can see also in her other works. For example, the blue and yellow that you see on the bottom part of the old age. For her, blue represented female energy and yellow represented the male energy. Most of her practice was exploring this connection between the oppositions, male and female, dark and light. And she was trying to bring a unity. So green, for example, that we see in adulthood, like we have the blues and yellows, and then the green. The green was the unity of the two different energies. And then you see the snails. I mean, snails are hermaphrodite animals where you can actually have two different sex in one entity. So this is also a very repetitive pattern. And when she started to do this work, this is, I think, also very surprising because one work is around like 3 meters high. So when you are next to them, you feel very small. And they are painted on paper, and then the paper is glued on canvas. And she imagined them to be displayed in a circular environment really close to each other. So when you're in the center looking at these artworks, you feel almost like you're surrounded by this evolution of a human life. And it is difficult to believe, but she was able to finish one big canvas in a very short time, like 4 days. And due to their large size, it is thought that I mean, she didn't do this alone. She asked the help of Cornelia Kederberg, one of the members of the five. So they were not painting vertically, but they were putting the paper on the floor. And they were making the painting on the floor, preparing the pigments, and then they were gluing on the canvas. So this is an installation view from the Guggenheim exhibition in New York. I don't know, like maybe some of you had an opportunity to visit the museum before. This is the hall, which is in the entrance of the building. So when you enter, it's a very narrow room, and it feels like it's almost in the ideal presentation of Hilma of Klint. So you enter in this small hall and you're surrounded by this very large and colorful, very vivid, colorful and highly symbolic paintings. After the 10 largest, another series that she produced is Evolution. I mean, Evolution, it gives its name. And this was also one of the themes that she explored a lot. Evolution of consciousness was something that she was really curious. And during this series, she played with many different oppositions, like polarities, male and female. Again, if you see, like the half is blue, the other half is yellow. So blue is the female and yellow is the male. Light and darkness, you can see that it's surrounded by like a darker environment, but inside you have the light coming up, and good and evil. So somehow creating a composition, bringing together these oppositions was also giving an opportunity for seeing a balance, how actually these things could be balanced. And I think this series is especially very much in line with the theosophical approach to evolution of a spiritual consciousness, a spiritual process. I mean, we don't have other examples of this series here, but I can say that in her, because she does many different paintings in one series, and usually she starts with some figures and then she ends with abstraction. So this is something that she plays a lot in different series. And I think it's also very important that when she painted this evolution series, also, you know, given the social scientific context when everybody was celebrating the science, Darwin's evolution theory was also on the table. It was, a little bit after than his theories that she was actually talking about like evolution of the spirit instead of a very scientific approach of Darwin to evolution. This is a very important note in our chronology. Hilma af Klint, while she was not easily finding venues to show her works, which were relating with her spiritual explorations, Theosophical Society organized an exhibition in Stockholm in connection with the 7th Congress of the Federated National Societies in Europe of the Theosophical Society. And in this group exhibition, Hilma af Klint, I mean, here you see only the 3 oil paintings, but on the previous page is also listing her watercolors and drawings that were included in this exhibition. So I think there are more than 20 pieces by Hilma af Klint in this show. And also it is including the works by Anne Cassel, again, her schoolmate and her collaborator. I find this very important in a time that this sort of work didn't have, let's say, an audience, a space to show with others. Theosophical Society in Stockholm organized such an exhibition. So before we jump to 1915, I should say that between 1908 and 1912, Hilma af Klint stopped painting. So for 4 years, she didn't paint anything. There are, it was a moment that she was taking care of her mother intensively. So one reason maybe was that, but also it is written in multiple resources that 1908 she made Rudolf Steiner, and where he was like giving her some comments about her artistic work. So some researchers comment that actually that meeting with Rudolf Steiner also was a reason for her to pause and reflect on her artistic practice. And actually, that is the time that she stops making direct channeling. So after 1912, when she restarts to paint, she says, okay, I received the messages from the higher spirits, but this time I will include my artistic interpretation. So that is a note to put before we continue with the 1915 series. So Tree of Knowledge is another series that she started during this period. And she was looking more like the connection between the earth and the divine and the complexity of the existence. And during that period, she was, as you can see, there are, I'm sure you see the lotus flowers in the image, like all the sacred symbols. You see the snake also in the image, the doves behind in the bottom part of the canvas. So she's borrowing many, let's say, sacred symbols, also some geometrical forms, in order to analyze like how the connection between microcosmos and microcosmos together they were working. And this series was mostly focused on this path. The doll is also, as you can see, the dates are really close to each other. So she was painting very quickly. I think this is one of the remarkable things of Hilma af Klint. The amount of paintings that she produced in a year is really remarkable. So this is also another series from the same year, 1915. And I think we shall also remember that 1915 is coinciding with the almost beginning of the World War I. I mean, Sweden was neutral during the war, but of course, there was a terrible destruction happening, and the situation overall in Europe was very dark. So I think when we look at the series that she produced during that time, we shall also keep in our minds that it was the period of the war. So in the Dove series, there are many works, but I just put here two of them. And for Christianity, though, is like the spirit, peace, unity, and as you can see, still like the positions here on the left, we have all this symmetry. Again, the colors blue and yellow, and then the unification, the spiral going towards the up, and then we have all these color rays, like all these different colors that are coming together in a perfect harmony. And on the right, we see the Saint George with the dragon. So she is playing with these forces of light and dark through, the war between these two powers, through this allegory from the Christianity. This is one of the series that I really like. It's called Swan. And again, it was painted in the same year, 1915. And you see these beautiful birds like black and white in opposite directions. And they are somehow becoming one through this composition. And for her, swans are also referring to alchemy, and it is representing the how the opposites can become in harmony. So here we see the black and white, man and female, the light and dark together, which are also explored in her different series. Also, this series starts with very figurative forms, and towards the end, it evolves really towards an abstraction. I think this is one of the also most well-known series, the altar pieces, which is a little bit different than the previous works because she uses leaves, like golden leaves. It is visually more luminous, and with the metallic leaves, it has a very different visual quality in real life. And for her, it's again related with evolution. So in the one part, we are going up towards the spiritual plane, and in the second one, we are going down from a higher level to the material world. And in the end, we see a sort of perfect circle, which is a harmony and unity. They are bringing together, and all these like spirals representing the momentum, the movement, and the energy. Actually, I think there's a time of the X-rays when everything was how we could see the vibrations, how all this technology was making the energy visible to us. I think the spirals in her practice that we see is very much connected with that idea. Parsifal is, 1916, one of the works that she is referring to a Middle Age story about the Knights of the Round Table, and how King Arthur was looking for the Holy Grail. But I wanted to put this image because the spiral, I mean, as a symbol, is very important for Hilma af Klint. I like how something, it's a part of the evolution, how things are growing. But here we see that it's like a darkness. A darkness is, it's almost like a wind path. And in the center, actually, we see the light. I mean, in the center of the spiral, we have a light, which is through all these dark moments where we arrive, is a peaceful light. This series included almost 150 drawings. One of the last things that I want to show is the Atom series. This is also from 1917. I wanted to add this because one, you know, atom was a very important subject during that time that everybody was exploring in the scientific sense. And for her, it was a symbol of the energy. And I think the quotation is very nice. When the atom is resting on the ether plane, its center absorbs energy that is stored there. When the body is in harmony, the atom cores give off energy that radiates out through them. And I think also from a theosophical point of view, this series of work and her exploration of atoms are really relevant from this point of view. I wanted to show you two examples, 2 pages from her blue books. I mean, as I said before, Hilma af Klint was actually interested in showing her works. So when she was traveling around Europe, she prepared these blue books with herself. It was like a catalog of her works. So on the left, you were seeing the miniature version of her actual painting, because her paintings were too big to carry to bring people, and people were not really coming to Sweden to make a studio visit to her. So she prepared these catalogs, like 1 page, she was making the miniature version of the painting, and on the other page, she had the black and white photograph of the actual artwork. And she was going around with this blue books around Europe, looking for a place to show her works. I mean, it is recorded in her notebooks that she, during her visits to Rudolf Steiner in Dornach, because she spent quite a lot of time in 1920s in Dornach, she went there multiple times. She brought some of her blue books, and I think she also left a few of them there. And also in the late 1920s, when she traveled to Amsterdam, she brought them with herself, hoping that maybe this could be an opportunity to show her work to a larger crowd. Her sketchbooks are amazing, and I think this is also she was a very good writer. I mean, I think she expressed herself very rightfully and beautifully. So she says, every time I succeed in finishing one of my sketches, my understanding of humanity, animals, plants, minerals, of the entire creation becomes clearer. I feel freed and raised up above my limited consciousness. And as I said, she left behind 25,000 pages of notes. As you can see here, like they are all dated, page numbered. And she built a vocabulary in time. So actually, she almost left like instructions. I think the time that she was much more silent after 1930s, maybe until her death, she prepared all these vocabularies. It's almost like a library of ideas, maybe we can say, which was explaining her theories behind this work and her symbolism. So we will just see a few of page samples from her work. So this is, in the early 1920s, she started these watercolors, and they were, as it is titled, like it was a series. It was called On the Weaving of Flowers and Trees. They are watercolors on wet paper mostly. Very recently, I think 2 years ago, they printed a very big catalogue raisonné of these watercolor drawings. They are very beautiful. And she was able to show her works in 1928 in London. So there was a conference, like World Conference on Spiritual Science at friend's house, and she was invited. I mean, you can see below at 4 p.m., July 25th, Miss Hilma af Klint from Uppsala, because she was not in Stockholm, she was able to present some of her works, and it is recorded that actually she traveled to London. So it was the time that she was still traveling. And if I remember well, she traveled with Anne Cassel, if I'm right. But that trip actually didn't bring her feature opportunities to present her work. And it seems like after that visit, she decided, that her works were for feature. It seems like she decided to focus on her feature creation like a unity. And actually, this was a time that she started to work on a physical temple space that she imagined on an island in a spiral shape, again, going towards the heavens with a staircase. And she envisioned an open sky. So the visitors were climbing the stairs, seeing all these beautiful artworks, which were exploring the evolution of a soul, evolution of cosmos. And then they were arriving to a point that actually they were uniting with the heavens on the sky. She suggested this project, but it was not accepted during her time. And this is a photograph of Hilma af Klint in a later age, and the notebook is showing us her last will with this sign saying that these works should be shown after 20 years of my death. Hilma af Klint's work, she left all her work to her niece, and of course it was a very big thing and they didn't know what to do. They suggested the works to Moderna Museet in Stockholm, but during that time, the museum was not interested in the works. They were shown publicly for the first time in 1986 in Los Angeles, LACMA Museum. The curator Maurice Tuchman, he did this very important exhibition called The Spiritual in Art, Abstract Painting, 1890 to 1985. And it was the first time that Hilma af Klint had almost a solo presentation in it together with Kandinsky, Mondrian, Paul Klee. And so that was her introduction to international art scene. Then in 2006, Camden Art Center in London, they organized a solo exhibition of Hilma af Klint. Of course, it was a smaller space in comparison to others, but it was an important step for introduction of her works to an international audience. But I think one of the most important work was done by curator Iris Müller-Westermann. Now she's the head of Moderne Museet in Malmö in Sweden, but during the time she was a curator at Moderne Museet in Stockholm. And she worked very intensely with the family, with the archives, and she organized this a very large-scale exhibition, actually bringing together more than 200 works of Hilma af Klint. And that exhibition was a huge success. It traveled around all the Nordic countries. It even traveled some European countries. And 2013 was the year that, with all the efforts of the curator and the other researchers contributed to this process, Hilma af Klint sort of entered in the abstraction scene. And as you already know, she was like, okay, we all thought that Kandinsky was the starter of the abstraction, but actually maybe we have to rewrite the art history. And this is the last slide from the Guggenheim exhibition, 2019. This is another turning point for Hilma af Klint's recognition, international, let's say. It was visited by, like, I think 600,000 people, and it was the most visited exhibition in Guggenheim's history. And after this exhibition, I think everyone now knows about who is Hilma af Klint. Recently, also they organized an exhibition of af Klint in Guggenheim Bilbao. Yeah, so thank you very much. I mean, it's a very huge an important work, so it's difficult to squeeze in time, but I tried to give you a brief summary. And I think she is a symbol of hope for many people, many females, many artists in the art history and also in the contemporary art field. Her dedication to her practice, even in the moments of rejection, her consistency about how she was bringing together her spiritual practices, her mediumistic practice with the artistic language was remarkable, and she never stopped believing to higher masters and herself. So